Welcome back to Thone's Nibbles number 97, coming from Acts chapter 8, a model in evangelism. This comes from chapter 8 of Acts, verses 4 through 8. Therefore, those who were scattered went everywhere preaching the word. Then Philip went down to the city of Samaria and preached Christ to them. And the multitudes from one accord heeded the things spoken by Philip, hearing and seeing the miracles which he did. For unclean spirits, crying with a loud voice, came out of many who were possessed, and many who were paralyzed and lame were healed. And there was a great joy in that city. This, I think about a lot more people would volunteer to be foreign missionaries if this is actually what they knew this was going to happen when they got there. Unfortunately, it's sometimes takes generations of missionary work to really make a dent in what needs to be done. But this is about Philip in Samaria. Why is it in the Bible? To document the spread of evangelism for the Great Commission from Jerusalem, Judah, to Samaria. And that's exactly the order it was given. First right in Jerusalem, and then Judah surrounding Jerusalem, and then just a little bit to the north was Samaria, and that's the next place they went to preach. And Philip, who was a great evangelist, did that. Who was spoken to here, the Samaritans who listened to Philip. The communications. All people need the gospel. Remember, the Samaritans were hated people by the first century Jews because they had compromised. Many were half-breeds or quarter-breeds, the Jewishness was slowly going out as the generations flowed, and for that reason, this is one thing that had been taught all along, was that Jews were not supposed to marry non-Jews. So, what's the communications? All people need the gospel, I say. Application to my life. Here was a successful ministry. That is the one of Philip, not mine. Number one, he entered a relatively untouched area with the gospel. And in truth, the only other, up to this point, the only other preaching in Samaria that we are told in the Bible about was Jesus and the woman at the well. And then that city in Samaria had a sort of a revival. And but aside from that one case, this is the first time that the Samaritans had been preached to, I guess. Number two, he preached the gospel in consort with healing and casting out demons. And this is something that he learned, that Jesus did. He using signs to validate his preaching. That is, I healed these 12 people, or whatever the number was, and I threw out these 16 demons. And the reason I was able to do that was that power was given to me by a man named Jesus. And then he goes into the whole ministry of Jesus. And it was amazing what happened. And that's what number 3 is. His ministry was well received and brought joy to the people. It's not only, it's easy to see if you have these miracles and some teaching which sort of maybe makes sense to you. It's easy to say, okay, I guess I ought to believe that now, because this man who did all these miracles says I should. But these people were not just accepting, they were joyously accepting. And that's belief. Accepting, I'm going to have to change from, worshiping Zeus to worshiping this Jesus guy. That's just, looking at things a little differently and saying, well, this is better than that. And, these people, when they worship Zeus, were not, did not have any medical miracles, but now this man comes in and preaches Jesus and all these miracles happen. So they were joyful. They were joyful at his arrival, as his ministry. What God tells me about this, I should never fear failure in teaching God's Word. If I feared failure, then being a person who doesn't normally put themselves out a lot, as I've just discussed, it would be real easy for me to say, okay, well, I guess I just am not a good enough preacher to really help these people understand. So I'll go back in my hole and, there's a behind me over that way is a canvas, and I like to paint landscape pictures with a canvas. So I'll go back and paint canvases and let these people who are truly gifted by God teach His Word. Doesn't mean I don't believe it and even love it, but it would be easy if I had the fear that I would just back away. But I should never do that. My personal response, Lord, prepare me and equip me to teach your blessed story in whatever situation you place me. Now, that's one of those dangerous things, because God can say, okay, I'm going to place you in a difficult situation just to show you. So, it's important, though, that we be willing. Not that He's going to ask most of us to be a Billy Graham, or to go be a Mother Teresa, or to do any of the really major ministry things that, if we were frightened, would be just overwhelming. We just have to know that we are willing, in whatever such circumstance that He puts us in, to try. And that's all we can do. He gave us the skills. So if we try and execute those skills, we can either be successful or unsuccessful. But, He's going to say, well, that's on me. If this fails, this is not your fault, because it isn't. I did I do what God asks with these talents that He gave me, and those talents must be sufficient. So that completes today. See you next